The Grand Galactic Hall was a monument to order. Towering spires of translucent crystal spiraled toward the stars, humming softly as they refracted the light of the nearest sun. Inside, beneath the massive dome of the High Assembly, representatives from hundreds of species gathered in their appointed sectors, each seat symbolizing an empire, a federation, or a sovereign world. The air was thick with tension as the final delegation arrived. Not the insectoid Brotash, nor the cold-blooded Shulzar, nor even the ancient and revered Varn Dominion. It was the humans. A silent ripple spread through the chamber as the human envoy entered. The others whispered in 1,000 languages, their voices blending into an uneasy chorus. They came. They actually came. Against all odds. No species in the known galaxy had confounded the galactic order more than humans. They were supposed to be fragile newcomers, barely centuries into spaceflight, yet they had reshaped alliances, toppled empires, and forced every major power to recognize their sovereignty. And now they sat at the very heart of galactic politics, uninvited yet impossible to exclude. From the human side walked Ambassador Marcus Kane, a man whose name had become legend among both friend and foe. Behind him stood two silent companions, Commander Evelyn Dre of the Terran Defense Fleet and Dr. Arjun Patel, a quiet but intimidating presence from Earth's enigmatic division of strategic sciences. Every alien eye locked onto them as they took their places. At the head of the chamber, the Supreme Archon of the Galactic Council, Fkorth of the Eldery, signaled for quiet with a subtle wave of his biosilk appendage. His normally serene expression faltered for a moment as his gaze met Kane's calm eyes. "Let us begin," Fkorth intoned, his voice magnified across the assembly. A holographic projection materialized in the air, a galaxy-wide map displaying human expansion. New colonies, trade routes, military installations. Every pulsing light on that map represented a decision the Council had failed to prevent. "This is the root of our concern, human ambassador," Fkorth said carefully. "Your species expands at a rate previously unseen. You defy the Accords. You destabilize the ancient balance." Murmurs of agreement rose from the various delegations. The Brotash vibrated their wings in disapproval. The Shulzar let out low hissing grumbles. Even the Varn elders, who rarely involved themselves directly, shifted uncomfortably in their crystalline pods. Kane did not flinch. "Expansion is survival. It is not aggression." "You disregard our treaties," shouted General Zur of the Threxian hegemony, his armored form looming large even across the chamber. "You occupy systems that are neutral. You arm yourselves far beyond necessity. You train soldiers who kill without remorse." "That's not true," Evelyn Dre said, her voice cold. "They kill when necessary. And they kill with precision." The silence that followed was crushing. "Your people are too dangerous to be trusted," added High Chancellor Resht of the Miraval Confederacy, her voice more diplomatic but equally accusatory. "We demand assurances. We demand oversight." Dr. Patel finally spoke, his words sharp and deliberate. "Let us not pretend. You do not fear our weapons. You fear that we succeeded where you failed. You fear our will." The assembly erupted into chaos, voices overlapping, accusations flying. The council had gathered not for peace, but to corner humanity, to force concessions, to clip their wings. They had hoped to humble the humans through pressure. But humanity had come prepared. With a raised hand, Kane summoned silence again. "Let us stop the pretense. This is not about accords or peace. This is about control. You want us to kneel." Fkorth chose his words carefully. "We seek balance. Submission is not." "You want us weaker," Kane interrupted, voice steady but loud. "So you may sleep better at night knowing that humanity cannot rise further. You fear the day we are no longer a minority voice in this hall." Several species bristled visibly at his directness. "Consider the alternative," Resht warned. "Without an agreement today, many among us may feel compelled to act, forcefully." It was a threat. And it was a mistake. Commander Dre leaned forward slightly. "And how many fleets will you sacrifice? How many worlds will burn trying to force us? Do you believe humanity will fight alone?" Several minor delegations, those who had traded with humanity, who had benefited from human innovation, suddenly looked away, uncomfortable. They knew. Humanity had made friends in the shadows. The Supreme Archon's face darkened. "You are outnumbered." Dr. Patel smiled, a rare and terrifying sight. "But not outmatched." For a moment, the High Assembly teetered on the brink of collapse. The council chambers shook slightly as a distant rumble echoed. It was not an attack, but the unmistakable arrival of a warship entering high orbit. The human supercarrier Atlas Ascendant had entered the system. Korthus' eyes narrowed. You dare bring your warship to these talks? Kane stood slowly. We never came for talks. We came for your decision. A long pause followed. Peace on equal terms, or something far worse? The threat hung in the air like a blade. The silence inside the Grand Galactic Hall was more terrifying than any shouted threat. The assembled rulers of the galaxy, species who had seen empires rise and fall, were now forced to measure words against a species they once dismissed as little more than an evolutionary footnote. Ambassador Kane's final declaration still rang like a death knell across the chamber. Peace, on equal terms, or something far worse? Korthus' smooth voice tried to reclaim composure. You attempt to dictate terms to the Council? To centuries of order? You believe your species can stand against what we represent? The Eldary's words were elegant but hollow. Kane's reply was simple. We already do. A murmur of nervous translations rippled across the various sectors of the chamber. Many of the younger, smaller civilizations, newer to the Council but observers of humanity's meteoric rise, whispered among themselves, daring to hope that someone might finally challenge the ancient oligarchy that had ruled for millennia. Your arrogance will doom you, human, growled General Zur of the Threxian hegemony, his armored claws clacking together as if eager for battle. You are alone. At that moment, Ambassador Kane made a subtle hand signal. A dozen holoscreens materialized mid-air, broadcasting live feeds from dozens of sectors across the galaxy, human fleets positioned at the edges of Council-controlled space, human colonies fortified with cutting-edge defense platforms, and, most shocking of all, diplomatic treaties inked with several smaller empires that had quietly allied with Earth. The Council chamber rippled with gasps of disbelief. You see only what you wish to see, Kane continued. We are not alone. You forced our hand long ago when you isolated us, when you denied us trade, when you sanctioned our science. While you postured, we built. The screens shifted to show technological marvels none of the Council had yet matched. Deep space slipstream gates, artificial gravity singularities, nanite self-repairing hulls, and most disturbingly the Atlas Ascendant, now fully visible in orbit above the Council's capital world, its silhouette dwarfing any Council vessel. Chancellor Resht's voice trembled slightly. These technologies violate Council law. You have broken multiple laws written to ensure your dominance, Dr. Patel interjected sharply. You kept the rest of the galaxy stunted for your comfort. We decline to remain stunted. Blasphemy, hissed High Priestess Sylveth of the Zorith theocracy. The Eldari wrote those laws to prevent war. They wrote them, Patel said with steel in his voice, to prevent competition. The tension was suffocating now. Even some of the larger empires like the Dravith Syndicate and the Miraval Confederacy remained silent. Their fleets, powerful as they were, couldn't match the scale of what humanity had displayed. For centuries, the Council had assumed the humans were simply catching up. Now it was clear they had surpassed. Korthus' voice lowered to a diplomatic tone. Perhaps, we rushed into this meeting with emotion rather than caution. Perhaps we might return to discussions of cooperation, under the Council's framework. But Kane didn't move. No. There will be no framework built by you. He let the words settle like thunder. For too long you offered peace as a leash. We reject it. From this moment forward, Earth recognizes no superior authority. We will engage with those who wish peace as equals. Those who wish otherwise, he glanced toward General Zur, whose claws flexed in frustration, may test their resolve. The air grew colder. General Zur rose from his seat abruptly. We should crush you where you stand. You believe technology alone will save you? It was Evelyn Drey who spoke now, her voice calm and chilling. No, General. Not technology alone. What makes humans dangerous isn't what we build, it's why we build it. You fight for power. We fight because you force us to. That's the difference. Korth leaned forward, trying to salvage control. You believe this path makes you safe? No, Kane said, his voice dropping lower. There is no safety. Only consequences. Suddenly, a faint vibration ran through the entire chamber. The lights dimmed slightly. A second warship had arrived. Another human supercarrier, the Eidolon Spear, appearing out of slipstream mere kilometers from the Council's orbital defense perimeter. The unspoken message was crystal clear. This is what awaits if you choose war. Whispers turned into outright panic among many delegates. Even those previously aligned against Earth now hesitated, calculating the potential cost of challenging humanity's resolve. Chancellor Resch tried one last maneuver, her voice tight. If you walk away from the Council, You walk away from centuries of galactic stability. You would bring chaos. We didn't bring chaos, Kane replied. You did, when you mistook our patience for weakness. The elderly Archon's expression finally cracked, revealing the fear beneath centuries of polished diplomacy. You would shatter the order of the stars. Kane smiled faintly. Then let it shatter. With that, the human delegation turned as one, walking away from the council platform. They didn't look back. The chamber remained paralyzed. None dared stop them. None dared utter the one truth now staring them all in the face. The humans had just rewritten galactic history. The rulers of the stars had frozen in their own fear, watching as humanity stepped into a destiny they no longer controlled. The humans' footsteps echoed in the grand galactic hall long after they had left. The council chamber, once a place of authority and domination, now sat in stunned silence. The great powers of the galaxy had just witnessed something they had never conceived of, a species turning its back on their rule, not out of desperation but out of strength. Korth stared at the empty space where the humans had stood. His breathing was slow and shallow, his mind racing to comprehend the implications. The humans had displayed not only defiance but the capacity to back it up. And worse, alliances, hidden, patient alliances, had quietly formed in the council's blind spots. They will not stop, whispered High Priestess Sylveth, breaking the silence. They will spread. They will break the balance of power, hissed General Zur, slamming a clawed fist into the table. We should strike now, before their influence grows beyond control. Chancellor Resht rubbed her temple, exhausted. And how do you propose we strike, General? They now sit in every corner of our borders. Their fleets are stronger than we suspected. Their technology, unfamiliar. And their allies, added Minister Halix of the Miraval Confederacy, his voice grim. You saw it? The Dravak, the Offeri, even elements of the Helvern Directorate. Species we thought loyal to the Council have secretly negotiated with Earth. We strike at Earth and we risk open rebellion across the quadrant. General Zur growled. Fear paralyzes you all. No, Resht snapped, her composure cracking. Reality tempers us. For the first time in eons, the Council felt like what it had tried to suppress for centuries, fractured. In a secluded chamber deep beneath the Council spire, a smaller emergency session was called. Only the inner circle remained, those who truly pulled the strings behind the public facade. The ancient rulers, some of whom had governed long before humanity had ever left its cradle. Korth addressed them first, his voice barely a whisper now. We underestimated them. We mistook their emotional volatility for weakness. But it is exactly that which makes them dangerous. They evolve too quickly, added the Zorith priestess, her eyes dark with dread. Their pain feeds their strength. Their wars sharpen them rather than break them. What took our species millennia, they accomplish in decades. An elder of the Shivar ascendancy, a race so old even their true homeworld was lost to time, spoke from his floating throne, his voice distant and hollow. They do not simply adapt to change. They are change. A living variable we cannot control. Silence once again permeated the room. The Council's most dangerous realization wasn't that humanity sought war. It was that they didn't need war to win. Their existence itself disrupted the order. They're rewriting the rules of power, whispered Chancellor Resht. Not through conquest but through example. Even now, smaller species are beginning to question why they remain in our shadow when humanity offers something we never did, partnership. General Zur snarled, if we allow this to continue, the Council will collapse entirely. Korth stared coldly at him. Then perhaps, we need another approach. The chamber froze. You suggest capitulation? Zur barked. Surrender? No, Korth replied carefully. But war will not serve us. Direct confrontation with humans may trigger the very rebellion we fear. Instead, we control perception. Manipulate the smaller species. Poison their alliances. Sabotage their trust. Divide them, whispered the Shivar elder. Exactly, Korth nodded. The humans may be formidable but they are not immune to deception. Their strength lies in unity, so we must fracture them from within. The idea slithered across the room like a venomous serpent. The ancient powers of the Council had long ruled not just through strength, but through manipulation, subterfuge, and subtle control. These were tools they knew intimately. We have agents seated across dozens of their colonies already, Priestess Sylveth added. Let us awaken them. Chancellor Resht hesitated. It's dangerous. If discovered. If discovered, Korth interrupted, we deny involvement. As always. Plans were drawn, contingencies mapped. A quiet war was beginning, one waged not in space but in shadows, in political halls, in whispered rumors, in betrayals. But as the Council finalized its plot, far across the void of space, humanity was not idle. On Earth's lunar command station, Lagrange Defense Outpost Sigma, Admiral Aisha Rin stared at the latest intelligence reports. "They'll come for us," she said. General Marcus Steele nodded beside her. "Not with their fleets. Not yet. They know they can't win that fight." Aisha's lips pressed into a thin line. "No, they'll try to break us from within." General Steele folded his arms. "We're preparing countermeasures. Our intelligence networks have already identified Council agents operating inside the Helvern sector. We've neutralized 5 cells just this week." "They'll get more desperate," Aisha warned. "The more they fail, the more reckless they'll become." Marcus grinned, eyes gleaming with something only a human could radiate under such pressure: confidence. "Let them. They've played this game for centuries. We've only been playing it for a few decades. And we're already better at it." Aisha allowed herself a rare smile. "You sound like Kane. He taught me well." Across the holographic map, glowing symbols represented every known Council stronghold, and every human-aligned sector. The balance was shifting. Slowly. Quietly. Inevitably. And so the stage was set. The galaxy's rulers plotted in fear. Humanity, knowing full well what approached, calmly prepared to meet it. But neither side fully understood. The coming storm wouldn't be like anything the galaxy had ever seen. The galaxy trembled, but not from warships firing volleys or planetary bombardments lighting up the void. No, this was a different kind of war, a war of whispers, betrayals, and shadows. The Council had launched their secret campaign with precision, their agents embedded across human-aligned sectors, sowing doubt, spinning lies, forging divisions where none existed before. And at first it seemed like the ancient powers might succeed. Minor colonies reported civil unrest. Trade agreements faltered. Trust between newly allied species strained under fabricated scandals. Assassinations were carried out in the shadows. Key diplomats were quietly removed or framed as traitors. The Council's centuries of manipulation expertise unfolded like a symphony. But they had miscalculated one critical truth. They were playing by their rules. Humanity had never played by anyone's rules. Lunar Command Center, Earth Orbit. Admiral Aisha Rin sat in the war room with her senior intelligence officers. A massive holographic display filled the room, lines of data scrolling as intercepted transmissions flashed across sectors. "They've accelerated the campaign," Intelligence Chief Donovan reported. "We've confirmed 37 active Council destabilization cells within our protectorate zones. Another 28 are suspected but not yet identified." "And the rebellions?" Aisha asked. Donovan gave a tight smile. "Controlled. The Helvern incident was contained. Our counterintelligence exposed the forged documents before the uprising could spark." "And the infiltration of our economic sectors?" "Failed. Our quantum ledger verification systems flagged the fraudulent transactions before any damage was done." Aisha leaned back in her chair. "They're getting predictable." "It's their weakness," Donovan said. "They believe we are like them, slaves to hierarchy driven by rigid protocol." "But we aren't," General Steele added, stepping forward. "We're chaos. Controlled chaos." Aisha nodded slowly. "Exactly." Deep within the Council's core world of Vathera, Vkorth stormed into the hidden war chamber, his eyes ablaze with fury. The Council's finest spymasters bowed nervously before him. "Explain," Vkorth snarled. "Supreme Elder, they've adapted faster than anticipated," one stammered. "Their countermeasures are highly advanced. Our agents have been neutralized almost as quickly as they are deployed," another whispered. "Impossible," hissed Priestess Sylveth. "Their intelligence networks should be infants compared to ours." "No longer," Vkorth growled. "They've learned from us. They've studied us." The Shivar Elder floated forward, his ancient face twitching in rage. "They've turned our own weapons against us." "Worse," Vkorth said softly, "they've been waiting for us to do this. They baited us." The silence was suffocating. Outer Rim, the trap is sprung. In an isolated sector known as Sigma Horizon, the Council's final, desperate operation commenced. Massive resources were funneled into destabilizing one of humanity's key outposts, a vital trade hub responsible for managing dozens of colonial routes. Saboteurs infiltrated infrastructure nodes. Supply chains were hacked. Riots were staged to create maximum chaos. The Council's hidden fleets lurked nearby, prepared to invade under the guise of restoring order, once humanity was sufficiently weakened. But as their ships emerged from hyperspace, expecting a fractured and distracted defense, what greeted them was something altogether different. An entire human battle fleet waited, silent, prepared, and utterly calm. Admiral Kane himself stood on the bridge of Horizon's Spear, Earth's first generation of super-dreadnoughts. Its sheer size dwarfed anything in the Council's arsenal. The Council's fleet wavered as human warships formed a wide net, surrounding them with surgical precision. Fighters, carriers, stealth destroyers, they hadn't deployed a fleet, they had deployed an ecosystem of war. Kane opened a secure transmission. His voice was calm. "Cole, you assumed we would react. You assumed we would flail and panic. You assumed wrong." The Council commander on the opposing flagship, a grizzled three-neck admiral, stared at the hologram with growing horror. His fleet was vastly outgunned. The Council's carefully laid trap was, in fact, a reverse ambush. "Stand down," Kane continued, "and we will allow your crews to live. Engage, and you will not return home." The Council fleet hesitated. Their technology was superior, on paper. Their numbers matched the humans on paper. But no paper calculation accounted for the cold, relentless precision with which humans executed warfare. The Council ships powered down. Surrendered. The final act of their quiet war ended not with screaming plasma fire, but with total submission. Galactic Council Core, 1 week later. The Council chamber was emptier than ever before. Many races had already withdrawn. The once unbreakable alliance was dissolving rapidly. At the head of the chamber, Kane, Aisha Rin, and Marcus Steele stood before the remaining leaders. "You forced this war upon us," Kane said simply. "You offered us peace on your terms. We rejected your chains. You tried to break us in the shadows and we endured. Now your reign is over." Korth, beaten but not broken, spoke hoarsely. "You think you have won." "No," Aisha corrected, her voice quiet but sharp as a blade. "We didn't win. You lost." General Steele took a step forward, his voice a low growl. "Your empires were built on fear. Ours is built on choice. That's the difference." The Council's silence was an admission of defeat. Kane gave his final decree. "From this moment forward, the Council no longer governs the stars. The galaxy belongs to all who wish to live free. We will watch. We will protect. And if you ever threaten our people again, you won't see us coming next time." Epilogue: The birth of a new order. Months later, across the former Council territories, independent governments flourished. Species once oppressed by ancient powers now joined a new alliance, the Stellar Accord. Earth served not as emperor, but as protector, advisor, and equal partner. The balance of power had shifted, not through conquest but by breaking the cycle of fear. And in the great halls of Earth's capital, beneath the flag of the Accord, Kane stood with Aisha and Steele. "We walked away from their peace," Kane whispered. "But in doing so," Aisha replied, "we built something far stronger." General Steele smiled. "We built real peace." If you enjoyed this story, and want to witness even more epic HFY tales where humanity rewrites the laws of war, survival and power, make sure to subscribe to the Void Narratives.